So other type of visual report is a visual report showing a time-based comparison. And I'd like to show a time-based comparison for my network configuration diagram, my network concept diagram. And looking at that compare diagram, I'd like to show how my servers came into support over the past years. So looking at this type of diagram for my network portfolio of servers, I'll let that run. And this report opens up in an HTML report. And the HTML report is a time-based report that allows you to, using a time bar, view the changes within the objects over time. So here I'd like to run this report and look at the service states, how these servers came into place from January 2002 to the future usage in May 2010. So navigating my scroll bar to the left to 2002, I see what server was in place at that time. And then moving forward, I can see what servers came into production at a specific date. So here I'm looking at November 26, 2003. I can move the time bar to really specify a certain point in time. So from June 27, 2003 to November 2003, I can see what came into production. And I can use this type of diagram not only for servers, but from any type of object, from technology components, applications, business processes, and so forth. So the last type of report that I like to show is an as-is to be comparison report. And this report allows me to really show the transition from the as-is to the to be. So to do this, I'd like to create an as-is and to be workspace in System Architect. So using System Architect, you can create baselines and workspaces. And creating baseline and workspaces in System Architect allows you to create and segment manageable phases of the architecture and utilize reports to really intelligently transition all the organizational areas from an as-is to a to-be as needed. So here I'm opening up the baseline architecture for as-is. So I'm transitioning to my baseline, which the baseline is a read-only workspace, and I can view the architecture as it looked like at that point in time when I did baseline the as-is architecture. So here I can see that in my as-is architecture it is read-only. And looking at the as-is architecture, if I look at select workspaces, I can see I'm in as-is architecture. What I'd like to do is create a to-be architecture. So under Tools, Manage Workspaces, selecting that as-is architecture for the baseline, I'd like to create from that baseline a new to-be architecture. And for this to-be architecture, I can pick and choose architecture artifacts from the as-is to transition to the to-be by doing a merge and extract. I can compare the two architecture states from as-is to to-be doing a redline comparison using SA compare. So what I like to do is now open up this to-be architecture. And for the to-be architecture, I'd like to change my business process for verifying a customer account. I like to change that business process and add a new business process. So for this, the swim lane PD1 regional sales, zoom in on that area. Zooming in on that area, I'd like to add a business process. So for PD1 regional sales, I'd like to add a new business process called document customer information. I'd like to add that after this authorized for final review. So here at the top, I'll select the business process, add the business process to the diagram, give it a name. Document customer information. So I could create a new business process by giving it a name that adds a business process to the repository and then adds it to the diagram. Or I can select choices if I want to drag and drop and reuse a pre-existing business process and reuse that for my diagram. Here I'll create a new one. Select OK for the details, the property details. I could fill those in later. And then I'll go ahead and create a sequence flow going from authorized for final review to document customer information. And that's for the PD1 regional sales swim lane. So I'll save the changes I've made. And now after saving the changes I've made, I'd like to see the differences that I have between this business process model in the as-is architecture and the 2B. So as you see here at the top, I am working in the 2B architecture. So here I'll open up I'll choose to open up a workspace, and I'll open up the as-is architecture. Select OK. So opening up the as-is architecture, I'm transitioning from the 2B to the as-is, and notice how seamless and easy it is to transition from as-is to 2B. Now I'm in the as-is architecture. I could open up that verify account. And now to look at the details between the two, I'd like to compare the diagrams across workspaces, so from as-is to 2B. And select the workspaces to compare. I'm selecting the as-is and the 2B workspaces. Select OK. And now we're presented with an HTML report that shows the time-based comparison of that diagram from as-is to 2B. So I'll just wait for that to load. So waiting for that to load. Here we have the diagram for verify account, which is a business process, and we have the option of superimposing the as-is in the 2B. So for the as-is, I'll look at that in the opacity 1, and the 2B, I'll select 0.3. So here I can see that new business process that is for the 2B in opacity 0.3, kind of in the background, superimposing the two diagrams. So I can see how the transition occurred. So that's one of the capabilities in System Architect to really compare your as-is to the 2B and transition between the two states, as well as manage the two architectural states.